Welcome to Tectonic Shifts, where we dive deep into the world's most pressing issues. I'm Jordy, and joining me is Rapona Man, who once thought NATO was a breakfast cereal. Ripon, the topic on everyone's mind, with Israel and Iran at odds, is World War III really knocking on our door? Thanks, Jordy. Happy to be here, although I wish we were talking about something less apocalyptic. I googled World War III, and half the results were memes. But seriously, the tension feels higher than my blood pressure after 3 espressos. Good to know your caffeine tolerance is intact, Ripon. But jokes aside, let's unpack why this conflict feels so globally significant. The Israel-Iran confrontation involves more than just 2 countries, right? Absolutely. It's like a messy group shot of everyone's in it, from the US to Russia. I read somewhere that Switzerland is readying their army too, just in case. Switzerland, huh? I think they're still perfecting their cheese, Ripon. But you're right, multiple nations are watching closely and global alliances are on edge. Let's dig into who's actually involved. So, if I remember my high school history, didn't World War II start because of a bar fight in Austria? Or am I mixing up stories again? Close, but no schnitzel, Ripon. Actually, it was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo that triggered World War I, not II. But your confusion hints at a deeper point. How small events can snowball globally. Right! So, are we looking at a similar domino effect here? Like, if Iran attacks Israel, suddenly everyone's pulled in? Exactly. Historically, alliances and mutual defense pacts can escalate local conflicts. In the case of Israel and Iran, both have powerful backers, and proxy groups are involved, making it a powder keg. So, not quite a bar fight, but potentially a global brawl. Got it. Let's talk about these alliances. Israel has strong ties with the US, while Iran is backed by Russia and sometimes China. How do these relationships increase the risk of a wider war? Well, it's like when you get into a fight at school and your friends jump in. Suddenly, it's not just you and the bully, it's the whole class. Same with countries, right? That's a decent analogy, Ripon. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, any military escalation between Israel and Iran would likely trigger US involvement and possibly draw in Russia, given their regional interests. And if China joins, we're basically an Avengers, World War edition, or maybe more like Justice League, because the plot's a mess. If only superheroes could solve geopolitical crises, Ripon. The reality is much messier and more dangerous. You know, I read that wars boost economies, so maybe some countries actually want a big war? That's a persistent myth. While arms manufacturers might profit, the broader economy usually suffers in global wars. For instance, World War II destroyed much of Europe's infrastructure, leading to years of hardship. Today, with global supply chains, even a regional war can disrupt food and energy markets. But then why do countries keep threatening each other? Is it just for show, like professional wrestling? There's certainly posturing involved, but economic interdependence often acts as a restraint. For example, over 40% of the world's oil transits through the Persian Gulf. A major war would send prices skyrocketing, hurting everyone including the aggressors. So, if war is bad for business, maybe that's one reason we're not all doomed yet. Let's pivot to cyber warfare. Unlike traditional wars, much of the Israel-Iran conflict happens behind computer screens. Have you heard about the Stuxnet virus, Ripon? Is that the one that sounds like a Pokemon? Or was it a hacker movie? Stuxnet was a real cyber weapon, likely developed by the US and Israel, that sabotaged Iran's nuclear facilities back in 2010. This set a precedent for digital attacks as a primary method of modern conflict. So, instead of tanks and bombs, we've got viruses and malware. Does that mean World War III could be fought entirely online? It's possible. In fact, a 2021 report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies notes cyber operations are escalating, targeting infrastructure, banking, and communications. The damage can be massive, even without a single bullet fired. I've seen so many rumors on social media lately like, supposedly, Israel has a death ray and Iran has a secret army of robot camels. How do we even know what's real? Robot camels would be a game changer. But let's stick to facts. disinformation is rampant during conflicts. According to a 2023 MIT study, false news spreads 6 times faster than the truth on platforms like Twitter. Wow, so people panic over things that aren't even true. Does that make war more likely? Absolutely. Misleading narratives can pressure governments into rash actions. Public opinion shapes foreign policy, and when the public is misinformed, leaders might react based on faulty assumptions. So, basically, check your sources unless you want to start a war by accident. Now, let's address the nuclear elephant in the room. Both Israel and Iran have nuclear capabilities. At least, Iran is suspected to be close. How does this change the stakes? So, if one side uses nukes, we're all toast, right? I watched a documentary, okay? It was a Godzilla movie, but the point stands. Not quite the same, but the threat is real. Nuclear weapons serve as a deterrent. The concept of mutually assured destruction has prevented large-scale wars since 1945. But the danger is miscalculation, or a rogue actor deciding to escalate. So, having nukes is like carrying pepper spray. Everyone's scared to use it, but it makes things tense. Exactly. And with more countries seeking nuclear arms, the risk of accidental war rises. If things are so tense, why don't they just talk it out? Like, have a big group Zoom call with snacks? Diplomatic channels are always active, but trust deficits make negotiations tricky. For instance, the 2015 Iran nuclear deal reduced tensions, but when the US withdrew, trust eroded. Rebuilding it isn't as easy as sharing a pizza over Zoom. So, what works? Bribery? Threats? Interpretive dance? Mainly back-channel communication and confidence-building measures. For example, the recent Saudi-Iran talks, brokered by China, show even rivals can find common ground, at least temporarily. Maybe we should send them a board game instead, less risky than tanks. Let's shift to how ordinary people are reacting. In Israel, civil defense drills have increased, and Iran's population is stocking up on essentials. What do you make of this, Ripon? Honestly, I'd probably just hide under my bed with snacks. But seriously, I read that in Tel Aviv, people are downloading emergency apps and learning first aid. So, there's some practical action happening. Right. And in Iran, authorities have advised citizens on shelter locations. According to the International Red Cross, civilian preparedness can save lives, but panic often leads to hoarding and misinformation. So, best to stay informed and not buy 400 rolls of toilet paper like in 2020. Exactly. Sensible precautions beat panic any day. Okay, Jordy, prediction time. Are we doomed, or is this just another scary headline? Honestly, while the risk is real, most experts agree we're not on the brink of World War III, at least not yet. Escalation is possible, but so is diplomacy, especially with global economic and nuclear deterrence in play. So you're saying I shouldn't build a bunker and start eating canned beans? Not unless you really love beans, Ripon. Stay informed, avoid panic, and remember, history is full of close calls that ended peacefully. That's a relief. For now, I'll just bunker down with some popcorn and watch the news with a critical eye, of course. To wrap up, today we explored the Israel-Iran conflict's potential to spark a global war, from alliances and nukes to memes and misinformation. Ripon, any final wisdom for our listeners? Well, Jordy, I learned that world politics is more complicated than my grandma's knitting, but seriously, a little skepticism and a lot of humor go a long way. Wise words, Ripon! Thanks for joining me, and thanks to everyone tuning in. Remember, stay curious, stay calm, and don't believe everything you see on the internet. Except this podcast. You can believe us, probably. On that note, this is Tectonic Shift signing off. Until next time, keep questioning the world around you.